Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I have a cool story that I want to tell, so I'm going to tell it now. If you want to hear it, here it goes. It starts the summer of my 39th year. I am now 43, and it is November. So this story is circular, and it has a circumference of 3.5 years. Okay. So, summer of my 39th year, I go to Costa Rica to heal from a breakup. I had been repeating a certain pattern in my romantic relationships whereby I was trying to heal my relationship with my mother with the women that I dated. Because my mother was never emotionally available to do that work with me. So I wanted badly, very badly, to heal, and I was unconsciously repeating my relationship dynamic with my mother, with my lovers, and this happens with everyone, I think, to try to do that over and over and over again. And because it was unconscious, obviously, that's not a good recipe for success, right? So, another failed relationship. But now I have realized this is what I've been doing and I want to put a stop to it. So I say, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. I'm going to sit with this at a retreat in the jungle, and I am going to figure out how to put a stop to this. I'm going to break this pattern. That was my intention. I go to Costa Rica. I'm there a week. I get badly triggered by the woman who's running the retreat. She reminds me of my mother. She's also asking me about my family, and I try to politely change the subject and let her know I don't have a good relationship with my family. And she tells me family is everything. If you've got stuff going on with your family, you should really try to work it out. So I think, well, maybe this is a sign that the way that I break this pattern is to go and directly deal with my mother. Even though it's never been a possibility in the past because my mother is an unwilling participant, I decide I'm going to make this happen. So I leave the retreat. I book a flight out, but I have to venture into a town about 2 hours from the retreat that I'm staying at and stay overnight at a hostel before I can go to the airport. So that night in the hostel, I am in the kitchen making myself a cup of tea, and I'm wearing a t-shirt that has the symbol of my massage business on it. And there's a young man in the kitchen, and he says, "Oh, I really love your shirt. What's that symbol?" So I explained to him the meaning of the symbol, and I tell him, I practice massage in Florida. And he said, "Oh, really? Where are you from in Florida?" Like, I'm from Florida. What are the odds we're going to be from the same place, right? But guess what? Not only is he from Florida, not only is he from the same region of Florida, but he lives in the same city, the same town as me in Florida. This kid, and he grew up there. He's lived there his whole life. This guy's 18 years old. And I have lived in that town in Florida for 10 years. The population is 15,000. It's a small town, a small city. We had never met. And now I am bumping into this guy in a random hostel in Costa Rica. And he's also flying back to Florida the next day. So we sit down and we start talking about why we're traveling. And turns out we have a similar reason for coming to Costa Rica, to deal with and break old patterns of behavior. This is a thing he literally said to me. Okay. He's trying to break old patterns of behavior. So, very cool, right? My pattern had to do with my relationship to my mother and having it repeat over and over again unconsciously in my romantic relationships. Okay, that was my pattern. So now here I am. I'm actually not flying back to Florida first thing. Before I stop in Florida, before I go back to Florida, I'm flying from Costa Rica to Texas to see my mother. I have decided. So it didn't work out well. I went to see my mother. It didn't go well at all. Funny how she didn't just magically change into a person who was willing and able to deal with things, just because I wanted her to be that way. It's funny how that works, how we can't just make people show up the way we want. Okay, so it didn't go well. I end up spiraling. I went into an abyss. I had a mental breakdown, and I went into a dark night of the soul, okay, which lasted a year and a half. And I've talked about this on here before. And it was a culmination of many things, but it was all rooted ultimately in my childhood trauma and confronting my mother and having her push me away, on top of my relationship ending and many other things that had culminated. It was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So I went into a dark night of the soul. At the end of it all, I ended up consecrating my life, consecrating myself with the Holy Spirit and giving my life to Christ. And that's who I am today and where I am today with this channel. That's why I have this channel. That's part of it all. Is things get laid on my heart and I share it through this channel. But okay, so I healed all that. I did, and I've known that. But you can understand or know something intellectually, but until it actually gets put into play, there might be some doubt, like, have I really fully healed around this, right? You don't know until you're presented with an opportunity to put what it is you've learned into action and act differently than you would have in the past, to have proof that you've broken the pattern, right? So last week, I had a situation where I needed to and was able to set a boundary with someone who reminded me a great deal of not just my mother, but many of the women in my life growing up who were supposed to be my caretakers, who ultimately failed me in some pretty significant ways, which resulted in trauma for me. The trauma that I was wanting to heal on that trip, which created patterns of behavior that I needed to break, all rooted in my relationships with the women in my life when I was a child, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt. Okay. I needed to set a boundary with someone who reminded me of those ladies and the relationships I had with those ladies. And I was able to clearly and kindly, with love for myself and this person, set a clear boundary. And I'm so proud of myself, and I realized in that moment for sure, wow, you have healed this. Okay? Wow, amazing. So, yesterday, I'm walking around the lake that I walk every day, and I'm thinking about this. It was in the moment yesterday while I was walking, that was when I realized, when I put it all together, that that's what I had done. Like, because it had angered me, some of what was going on with this person. And I was trying to figure out, like, why did it anger me so much? I was proud that I had set a boundary, but it seemed like there was something deeper as to why I would feel angry in the way that I did. Triggered, but I recognized that I was triggered and I handled it. And that's when I realized, oh, it's because this person reminds me of my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, all the women that didn't do right by me. And I love them all. We all do our best, right? I've forgiven them and I've forgiven myself. But I'm thinking about this. I'm putting all the pieces together as I'm walking and thinking, wow, I went on that trip 3.5 years ago to deal with this issue. And now here I am, and I know for sure it's done, okay? I completed that mission. And a friend sends me a text message as I'm on this walk thinking about this, checking in on me because I had told her about the situation. I was like, yeah, I'm really proud of myself. I took care of it and I feel good about how I handled it. And as I'm walking, reading this chain of messages back and forth with my friend about this topic, there's a kid, a guy, a young man approaching me. And I go to pass him and he stops and he says, hey, I know you. And I didn't recognize this person at all. And I said, no, man, I don't think we know each other. What's your name? And he said, Giani. And as soon as he said his name, it all came rushing back to me. And it was the guy from the hostel in Costa Rica that I had sat on a couch with 3.5 years ago and talked to him about this particular pattern of behavior that I wanted to break, that I was now texting my friend about, that I had broken the pattern. And I have a photo of this guy, me and him on the couch in this hostel in Costa Rica having this conversation. We took a selfie and I'm wearing this hat. I don't have it, it's in the back. I'm wearing the exact same hat as he's talking to me yesterday on the walk. The same hat that I was wearing in the selfie that I took with him in Costa Rica. We're all connected. There's something about the way my mind was vibrating as I was thinking about this thing that had a lot of emotion attached to it. This guy obviously resonates with that vibration in some way because of his personality, his past, what he's thinking about, I don't know. But we attracted one another around this same subject matter twice now. We're all connected. And synchronicities highlight that fact. I believe it's all synchronous. It's all one eternal moment. Everything is connected, not all necessarily causally. We're connected in every way. And when you are dialed in, tuned in, aware, fully present, that's when you can see it. And it's so amazing. God is so cool. Nothing is actually hidden from us. It's all information. Everything. And we can discern it. We can understand it if we will just get out of our own way and pay attention and seek to know the truth. I'm not claiming to know the truth, but I desire to know reality and to see clearly. And I find that getting out of my own way and quieting my own mind and my own thoughts, the more I practice that, the more I have a practice of that, of mindfulness, of meditation, of trying always to be connected to and open to God, I experience more synchronicities. I see more of the connectedness. And it's beautiful.